I would like to express my condolences to the young man who was assassinated south of the border in the United States, Charlie Kirk. My heart condolences. We do not need to die for our political belief. We all have our political viewpoints. I do have mine. You watching, you have yours. And we might disagree, but at the end of the day, everyone has a viewpoint. Everyone has his own stand on a particular issue. We don't need to be assassinated for our political views. And those people who assassinate people are just the same of the comments which we get on this channel. Your English is very accented, it means you didn't grow up here. You need to silence me because I didn't grow up here. Who says Canada's politics only to be commented by those who grew up in Canada? You don't even need to live in Canada to comment on Canadian politics. British newspapers write about Canada's politics all the time, or vice versa. And even in other far remote countries, other third world countries, they comment about Western politics. Do they need to grow up in that particular countries? If you have reasoning like that, you are deranged. Before we get into this video, I would like to touch a little bit on comments. I would suggest the following things. When you are commenting on this channel, on my channel, do not use sexist, classist, racist, homophobic, transphobic language. When you're commenting on this channel, avoid ridicule, bully, threaten, name, wish harm on others, or justify any form of violence. We also ask you that not to personally attack people. We have to avoid that. We have people who do not look like us and who do not speak like us. Not all were raised by our mothers, so they might speak differently. Not all were born by our parents, so they might look differently. This is what makes this world exciting. I walk out of this street and I see people who look different from me, who speak different from me. It makes life very exciting. But at the end of the day, we celebrate our similarities. We don't accentuate our differences or talk about them. We celebrate our similarities with a mouth and a head and two eyes and nose. And we can talk and communicate and understand each other. These are the commenting standards which we are setting for this channel. No one should die for his or her own political beliefs. Some of my beliefs, they might be even obnoxious, but they are my own beliefs. Some of them I even keep them to myself. But at the end of the day, we don't want to engage in any form of violence. We don't want to wish anybody violence. Your comments should not be personal attacks. Attack the subject at what I'm saying, but do not attack me. We are looking at the politics of delusion. Why Pierre Poilievre should not continue to be the leader or not be allowed back in parliament. Why Poilievre should not be back in the House of Commons. Here we are going through a list of why Pierre is not welcome in the House of Commons, because based on his politics of delusion. When I just like few years into this country, when I started reading about Canadian politics, I picked up a book by a gentleman, a former journalist, who had written about a Quebec separatist, and the title of the book was Soros, the name of the person, and the politics of delusion. This book is written by a gentleman called Lawrence Martin, a Quebec politician, his name, and then politics of delusion. Politics of delusion. He calls natives freeloaders. I've talked about it in another video. He went on a national radio in an interview and he claims that we are tired. He was using the pronoun we. I don't know him and who. We are tired of, we should have asked that who is we. We are tired of giving money. We have always been giving money to these native Canadians. We are tired of giving them money. At one time, he said it's a point they should pull themselves by the socks. I can't remember his exact words, but the audio is still circulating online, which says they should embrace hard work for their lives. He called natives freeloaders. He says they are all lazy, they don't want to free stuff. I have problems with these people who want to paint everybody in a particular ethnic group with one brush. I've met hard-working natives people. One of my professors here was a native guy who taught me social science. It's not everybody wants your free stuff. And after all, it's not your stuff. It's Canadian taxpayers' money. Do you know who is a freeloader? When I was doing political science, there's a political philosophy called anarchism. Anarchism. There is a movement based on anarchism. It's rooted in the belief that a politician, any politician, whether you're on the left or right, is a man who is without producing. Fundamentally, that's what they believe. They believe in the ultimate level of republicanism, of which we can run the entire country by institutions without politicians. And yourself, Pierre Poilievre, have been a politician all your life. All your life you have been a freeloader. These people in anarchism movement, you are a freeloader. You don't produce anything. You don't make a gadget. You don't make any product that benefit mankind. You just sit down and produce some hot air in the House of Commons. And how dare do you call that hard work? You have never worked a single job as a kid from the day you were born. And you have the natives freeloaders. I've met very hardworking natives people. I've met very hardworking natives people. As I said, one of my professors was a native guy. And now the people in this anarchism movement, they'll be calling you a freeloader. They put a very sound argument that we can run this world without politicians, with institutions only, and the head of institutions. We can run countries without politicians. Politicians are freeloaders. And now if we are to go with that argument, you have been a freeloader all your life. Since the day you were born, you have lived on the taxpayers. You have not even flipped a burger in your lifetime. You should have gone work at Donald, flip few burgers and know what it is to be an employee. You have never done that. And you have the nerve to be calling other people freeloaders. You have the audacity to be calling other people freeloaders. And the next issue, politics of delusion. Pierre wrote a letter to the Queen saying that he wants the Governor General then to be removed because she had supported black separatists. The Queen says, no, I don't interfere in Canadian politics, which was a very rational decision to an irrational suggestion. The Queen made a rational decision to an irrational suggestion by this career politician. I don't know whether he disliked it towards the Governor General then because she was a black woman. The Governor General then was a black woman. He didn't look like the people whom he has been growing up seeing them in the reins of power. He tried to have her removed under the pretext of that she supported black sovereignty. I would like to remind Pierre one thing. If you read a book which I once talked in my video on Quebec sovereignty, one of the reasons that gave rise to the Quebec sovereignty was this defunding. A gentleman by the name Thomas Greenway, back in the 1890s, who was the Manitoba premier, he defunded Catholic School Board, which was a French school board, and then also he defunded bilingual services in that province. This led to the mass exodus, mass movement from the west of French people in the west to Quebec. In that book, which I once talked about in one of my videos, The Road to Quebec Sovereignty Movement, originally written in French and then translated to English. It's actually as a chapter talking about that issue, which was then came to be known as the Manitoba School Question. I think eventually it ended to the downfall of a conservative federal government failure to resolve that issue, so Pierre wants to defund CBC. Be careful of what you wish for, Pierre. Be careful with your politics of delusion. Be careful. A lot of things we do in life, they have unintended consequences. Defunding of Catholic School Board, which was a French school board in Manitoba, is one of the reasons cited promptly about the rise of Quebec's sovereignty and the mass movement of francophones from the West to Quebec. His politics of delusion. He wrote a letter to Elon Musk asking him that on Twitter, CBC put as a tax-funded broadcasting corporation, which liberal propaganda. Pierre is writing to foreign-based, Canada is not part of United States. Elon Musk, though I understand he has citizenship Canadian on his mother's side, but he's an American-based. He's now a naturalized American. And Pierre was writing a letter to him saying that this something like CBC has to be put on Twitter, on X, as a publicly funded broadcasting which promotes liberal propaganda. In his politics of delusion, Pierre is seeking foreign intervention. Elon Musk is a foreign-based individual. He should not be interfering in Canadian politics. He is involved in the right-wing politics over there. He has nothing to do with Canadian politics. He should seek his help whatsoever. And he's a man who have spoken badly about Canada. At one time, calling it not even a country. But Pierre, the man who wants to be the prime minister of this country, is seeking help from a man who is denigrating the country which you want to be the prime minister. Politics of delusion. Another politics of delusion. Pierre once attacked the CEO of Election Canada and accusing him of partisanship by the statement, he wears a team jersey. Poilievre is a man known for attacking Canadian institutions for years and years. And he wants to be the leader of this country, the prime minister of the country. Also, Pierre has vilified political leaders, academic, private citizen he disagrees with. Do you all folks remember the video which he posted mocking Justin Trudeau and his cabinet, and keeps on holding to the budget which balances itself, which I talked about in my video? That was a very innocent statement. If you take it within the context, it is said within the parameters of economics. In economics, what he said, there was nothing wrong. And he also vilified academics. I don't know whether it's something to do with Stephen Harper or whether it gets with Stephen Harper. Stephen Harper, when he was prime minister, he was very much hatred. There was a lot of dislike on Stephen Harper by academics throughout the entire nation, more particularly out of Alberta. Most of academics didn't like him at all. I remember he came to power just like the time when I was going back to school myself. As I said, like I had come here as an adult, and the failure to have my phone credentials recognized, then that's when I decided to go back to school. So you'd find like certain professors would spend half of the lesson, half of the lecture bashing Stephen Harper, saying all negatives about Stephen Harper. There was a lot of hatred towards him from academics, more particularly from Caucasian males, not women, not minorities, Caucasian males. They didn't like Stephen Harper with a passion. Pierre is making the same thing of vilifying academics. They have an advantage that they can influence the next generation. These young people who are going through them, when they go voting, they won't vote for you. You have to be careful. You have to distinguish yourself from your boss. Learn from the mistakes which were done by your boss. Your boss made a lot of mistakes which led to his downfall. Do not vilify the private citizens. We have the right to criticize you because you work for us. We criticize you because you are in the public limelight. You want to save us, and we have the right to criticize you, Pierre. Also, his politics of delusion. He exhibits open hatred towards journalists. As I talked in Stephen Harper in the other video, trying to stop journalists from asking questions. Journalists, Mr. Poilievre, they are the messengers of the people. The questions they ask is nothing to do with his or her personal life. They are trained to ask certain questions for the people. So if you are shooting a journalist, you are just shooting a messenger. Hatred towards a journalist is a hatred towards the people's messenger. Treating journalists badly, that means you are treating people badly. you lose respect of the electorate. You lose respect of the general public by treating journalists badly. They are our messengers. They are asking the questions which they think, based on their training, might be of interest to the general public. They have nothing to do with the information they are trying to get to you in their personal life, but they are doing it for the people. You don't have to show any hostility towards them. You have to treat them with respect. Another politics of illusion engaged in anti-trans Trump-like. He said something that in the military we have to have warrior-like culture rather than war-like culture. He's pulling out a page out of Trump politics. We are in a democracy. We should be mature enough that certain people can make decisions which are different from us, which are different from me and you. If you are heterosexual, doesn't mean everybody has to be. That John over there can be engaged in some same-sex relationship. You have to respect that. The British philosopher Locke, he once made this statement: we all have the freedom to live the way we choose as long as our freedom does not infringe on other people's freedom. His name is Locke. He was a British philosopher who said that we all have the freedom to live the way we choose as long as our freedom does not infringe on other people's freedom. I can't say I have the freedom and I play loud music in the middle of the night and disturb my neighbors from sleeping. Now my freedom is infringing on others. That freedom is not tolerated. It's not acceptable. But I have the freedom to do whatever I want, to wear the clothes I want, to marry whom I want, to be trans if I choose to. You don't have to be anti-trans. Learn to live and let live. Pierre, you don't have to be like Trump-like rhetoric. In Canada, we are tolerant. We accept others who don't look like us, who don't behave like us, who don't make choices the same as we do. Leave American politics to Americans. It's another politics of delusion. Especially in the last session of Parliament, where we had a black speaker. The speaker was black, like me. Pierre was very disrespectful. I don't know whether we can read between the lines, I don't know. And at one time he was kicked out of the House of Commons because of bad behavior. He has proved to be rambunctious in the House of Commons. We want a leader who doesn't respect the institutions, who breaks rules and laws. First requirement of being a leader is to behave a respectable character, though, and not to be disruptive and disrespectful. You must show decency, civility, and respect to others. Those are requirements of leadership. I don't know whether this man really meet the requirements of leadership. He was very disrespectful to the last speaker, and he had to be kicked out of the House of Commons. And another politics of delusion, Pierre Poilievre. He supported Freedom Convoy insurrection. Freedom Convoy was an insurrection. That wasn't a demonstration. In the past, it is publicly, overtly criticized court decisions. In the court of law, the decisions are made based on facts, based on evidence presented in court. The verdict which judges, the jury, they make in the court of law, they are made based on evidence presented in that particular court during the hearing, during the proceedings. There could be a very different public opinion on a particular case, but the judges have to make their decisions based on evidence. It's not based on what Pierre thinks. No, it's based purely on evidence presented before the court. Going around criticizing court decisions, that's an attack on institutions. That's an attack on independence of the court. They independently make decisions based on evidence. They independently make decisions based on evidence. They do not make decisions based on what Pierre Poilievre thinks. If the evidence pointed out that the person did not commit that offense and they set him free. If Pierre has a different view, that's your problem. He has openly and publicly criticized court decisions. He attacks the institutions of, he attacks the independence of the judiciary, just like Stephen Harper, who criticized the Supreme Court of Canada. He also politics of delusion. Has defended the far-right media organization. Pierre has defended far-right media organization, including some of them which are down there in the States, including some far-right book in which he participated in a demonstration trying to get it in Alberta school. Sometimes he holds these far ideologies. The bottom line: demonizing opponents, intimidating journalists, disrespecting institutions, politicizing the rights of the vulnerable, and undermining the truth, and ignoring signs of global warming, and will contribute to the erosion of a democratic process. Pierre Poilievre is engaged in this time and time again. We thank you for watching. Please subscribe.